detained.
Aren't you
And
afraid
here the
you could
next
kill him?
day,
Aren't you
no.
afraid you could have killed
Well,
him?
we didn't think that far. We just left things up to God. The next day we were supposed to get into New York.
You were 6 days in this place.
6 days. On the sixth day, we were worried. All of us were worried. Because Paul looked, he looked like he was sick. And his face, a beautiful little face, but it was red, always red.
Could he talk to you?
Yeah, he talked to us. And he knew he was sick. There's nothing we could have done for him. To call a doctor, the entire boat would be, ship would be quarantined and below stern.
How did you know that? You didn't know what he had.
Well, we had an idea. Something's bad. It's not good. So the last day we were supposed to board, let's say about, they were supposed to come, 10 o'clock we were supposed to get into New York. That was the 8th of May. We got in the 8th of May, 1929. So we got in at 10 o'clock, about 9 o'clock before they examined everybody. When they came to Paul, it was the same way.
Where was this that they come to your room?
On a boat.
Did they come to your room?
No. Yeah, each case came out on the outside. And we were watching what Paul was going to do. The rider would put a thermometer under it, but he moved it immediately down. Thank God he had his common sense. And we were already examined, you know. So I ran out.
The thermometer and they walked away.
Yeah, they walked away. When they came back, he handed it over to him. So he says, well, he's a kid. We put an inch thick of powder on him, on his body.
What kind of powder?
We had powder, body powder. We had it.
What, did he look like it was white?
No, we just powdered and then we put on a beautiful white shirt on him that day he went. We washed it and ironed it. I'm telling you, it was so cute. And we tried to keep it as much clothes as possible. You know, here with the button. Even though the collar was still laying out. I'm sorry, I have that picture somewhere, so I'll show it to you. You'll find it. The collar was over on the blue jacket. Huh? He looked handsome.
And his face didn't have a rash or did it?
No, his face didn't. That's where we were lucky.
His face was like red.
Yeah, it was red.
God
performs these things miraculously.
You almost killed him.
We almost killed him, but we didn't know his face didn't have a rash, you see. And when we got up here, we got out on the outside on the deck.
Did you put powder on his face?
No. We got out on the deck. He didn't have nothing to cover anything.
You said he had a red face.
His face was red, but we didn't put no powder on his face. So a young boy runs around, he gets red, you know.
Did he have a rash on his hands?
No. Not in his hands nor his face. It was just started right here. Not in his
Why were you
neck.
putting the powder on then?
To cover the rash, you know. It was red.
In case they opened the shirt?
In case they opened the shirt. But it didn't open the shirt. We were just lucky. I say God was watching over us. And for my father's sake, and for my mother's sake. I went out on the deck, and I was the first to saw my father standing.
In New York?
In New York, you know. I recognized when I was screaming, and he waved, he recognized me too, you know. And then we all came out.
Screaming, Tata?
Yeah, and we all came out, and he saw us all there, and he knew that we were only us traveling. He knew that Mama wasn't coming. She and Paul and Albert and Evelyn was to remain in Europe. So he was so thrilled. Can you just imagine? And he took us off the boat, and he stops, he goes, we get out, they got whatever we had, suitcases, stops a cab, talks in English, and I thought, my father speaks such a wonderful English. I thought he was perfect. I didn't know what I know. I didn't understand one word he said. And the cab took us to the Bronx, to what's the one lives in New York? It lives in Rock.
To Jenny's house. Took a cab to Jenny's house.
Yeah, we took a cab to Jenny's house.
What was she doing in New York?
She was living in the Bronx, New York. She's been in America probably already at that time for 20 years. She wasn't just a new immigrant. Of course, yeah. She came here and got married here. She was visiting us at one time. She didn't have many children. I believe her daughter is adopted. It's not her own daughter. Because
she looks just like her.
No, she doesn't. I beg your pardon, she doesn't. Because after 2 months, she wrote her she gave birth to a little girl after she visited with us in Baltimore.
So what was it? A
It
shame
couldn't
to
happen
say
that
something
fast.
adopted?
Well, it's just
Those days?
like Seeley. My sister Seeley, when she had an operation on her appendix, nobody's supposed to know that she had an appendix taken out. But Shan that's where she acted. And the girls used to come and used to tell her she went to New York. She was upstairs laying in bed. We're back to where we are now. So we got into Jenny's house and we stayed there overnight.
Who was Jenny living with?
She was living with her husband there. He was a cab driver in New York.
Hey,
Yeah, he was a cab driver in New York, drove a cab in New York. And she had her older sister with her and her husband.
how
They
did you know
lived
that?
in like a big apartment, the two together,
How
each
did
had
your
their own
father know?
bedrooms. My father found out as soon as he came to the States. He knew him, used to visit frequently with him.
What was the relationship?
First cousins.
She was your father's first cousin?
Yeah, my father's first cousin. So we went over to Jenny's house, and they were very glad to see us, after all, they'd never met the children at all. And we stayed there for a while, and we also met 3 children. There were other cousins, not my father's, but they were cousins to Jenny's, just to Jenny, probably from the other side. There were 3 children they were kept at my grandmother really saved them from death. I mean, she once visited a little city where they lived in. Their parents died. Nobody wanted to take the children. There were 3 young children. There were 2 girls and a boy. So my grandmother, they were laying out in the streets.
Susie?
Susie, yes. So she picked them up, brought them back with her to Lutsk. She gave them a bath that stuck for 3 days. That's how knocked out the kids were. When they got out and they were clean, she shaved their heads because they were very dirty.
Nice.
Yeah. And finally everything came through, was all right.
What happened to those children?
So those children, finally, they had a father in the United States, but he never wanted to recognize it. So when Jenny found out where the children were and they were getting bigger, they brought them over there. So the state would live with them, the 3 children. Lived with them. And I recognized the children because they were in my grandmother's house.
How long did your grandmother actually have them?
Oh, she had them for 6, 7 years.
Oh, really?
Oh, sure. My grandma did a lot of
How old
good.
were they?
Babies. They were babies. They were compared to me. Compared to me, I tell you, the boy was probably about 5 years older than I was. Let's say.
That's not a baby.
No, that's not a baby. He was already married, I think, when we got there. And the 2 younger sisters, one was getting married, one was still going to school. See, so they were probably on the same. And one of them has been very sick now every year. She's in an institution somewhere, so I don't know what happened to her. Times comes back to children like that. They relive certain periods of their times, which is hard to understand. We stayed in Jenny's overnight, and we were very happy to see everybody. And then we went over to see her sister. Our other sister lived not far away. That's right. She didn't live in the same apartment with her. She lived within a few blocks. And we met her husband, and she had 2 children, a daughter and a son. Her daughter wanted to marry Paul. I remember she was dying to marry Paul. It's funny, as they were growing up, and Paul became a dentist, she used to come here very often to Baltimore to see Paul.
Paul wasn't interested.
And Paul was not interested. And she had a younger brother that became a very famous doctor, a specialist. I don't know if he's a cardiologist today. I don't really know, but he's a specialist. He's a doctor today, too, and his wife became a doctor, too. They both went to school. Then overnight we stayed in the Bronx, and the next day my father brought us to Baltimore, which was May the 10th already, by train. We came into Baltimore, and he stopped the cab, and he took us to the place where we boarded. That was Ehrlich's, the Ehrlich's. That's where we stayed with Ehrlich's. That's the Ehrlich, the one up at the chickens farm. In the town that in Lombard Street. In Lombard Street, Jerry. You don't remember that?
No.
Esther and Heike Ehrlich. When we lived on All this time while I was married, I used to always go down there, you know.
Yeah, but I don't remember when I was little.
Yeah, well, anyway, they still live, they're still in Balma. Both of them live here in Balma. Esther and Earl. She's out of business now. She's not in Lumber Street any longer.
So your father boarded with her?
Yeah, so my father boarded with them because,
How long? You just stayed overnight in New York?
yeah,
How was Paul acting?
Paul didn't act good. So we told my father, Paul's sick. Let's go right to Balma and take it. So he said, I can't start with a doctor here. Let's go to Balma and we see what we get into Balma. So we arrived to Balma on a Friday. On a Friday, Morris Gilden's mother, both dad already now, you know, invited us for dinner.